Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel Philosmos, where everything philosophical is discussed. Now, today I'm doing the video that I promised you guys, the differences between religion and spirituality. So, yeah, I'm gonna do three parts for this video, actually, because I don't think I can cover it all in one video. It's gonna be way too long, so I'm just gonna break it down so that it's digestible. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. So, the first difference between religion and spirituality is that religion has set out truths written in the form of scriptures, whether it's in the Bible, the Quran. It doesn't matter which religious book that we're talking about. There are certain scriptures written down that give you laws or ways of living. It gives you an understanding of what God expects out of you. So that's one aspect of religion. And then with spirituality, the difference is that there is no set out truth. The myriads of books written in the realm of spirituality, in the platform of spirituality. However, all of those are just guiding posts, right? Religion will tell you all truth will be accessed through this book. And if you seek other sources, then it is frowned upon. I don't think it is directly stated that you shouldn't. Perhaps it is stated in certain religious books, but the primordial focus should be on that religious book, whatever it is that you're ascribed to in a religion. But in spirituality, there's no centralized book. There's no centralized point in which we can gather some kind of guidance. The spiritual journey is a personal journey, and thus you are the one who has to access your own truth. You are the one who has to find and discover all this information, and it's not written down. So there are pros and cons to this, of course. Having things written down is more comfortable. It's more readily available, so you don't have to engage in intense thoughts and intense investigation. It's all there, written and out for you, and you have many pastors and many preachers that can actually tell you and perpetrate whatever's written in that book. But in the realm of spirituality, there is no centralized book that you can read. This is all personal, and sometimes you will feel lost and you will not have some guidance, but at the end of the day, it's truth that you're accessing by yourself. Of course, you have other individuals that point you towards the truth, but it's not something that you attain from a centralized source, is what I mean. Okay, so number two, religion is governed by morality. Morality that was set out by groups of individuals, that I would say would place out these moral ideas so that people wouldn't necessarily rebel. So people did not fight or challenge these moral ideas out of fear. It was Friedrich Nietzsche who said, morality is nothing but cowardice, and there's some underlying truth to that, because most people who follow moral ideas are only doing that because they fear stepping outside of it. They fear stepping out of that moral agreement that we have within society. So it's not following the moral idea because of its genuineness, but because of fear that if I don't, I will be ridiculed or punished. Oh my word. Religious people don't follow morality based on its genuineness, but rather more because they fear being ridiculed if they don't follow. They fear as if they will be prosecuted if they don't follow these moral codes. Whereas in spirituality, it's more open to relativity within the approach of morality, meaning the self will always govern its own actions as long as the action is birthed from love and as long as the action will not harm another individual. Then within the realm of spirituality, morality is more malleable, but in religion it's more fixed. There are commandments in the Bible as well, like there are commandments in many religious books. It's things that you ought to do. But in spirituality, you're not compelled to follow morality. You are compelled to follow your own inner guidance. And this, of course, has pros and cons as well, because now we may have deranged individuals that will claim that they're spiritual and do atrocious acts. That's why you don't harm anybody else whenever you're expressing your truth. And as long as it's done out of love, then there's no way you can try and find a loophole into hurting other individuals or into spreading toxic or dangerous ideas. But in religion, it's given to you, which is the plus. But the concern is that the moral codes that are given within the texts sometimes do not serve you, and sometimes will put you at a lesser position. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, they're not beneficial for you. So it's more open in the realm of spirituality. Okay, so the third point for this part one, the last point, is that in religion, the focus is on a God that is outside yourself. It's focused on a God being the creator outside, stepping outside of its creation and observing it, right? So it's the creator and the creation. There's a difference. There's a gap there. It's not the same thing. So in religion, their whole purview of life is that there is a God watching them, judging their actions, so that upon their death, upon returning to source, they will be judged based on their actions. So in spirituality, God is not something outside yourself. God is self. And not self as an ego, which is your name, who you think you are, your perceptions, your beliefs, what society told you about who you ought to be, who you think you ought to be. That's all a bundle of ideas. But the real self is connected to every other living organism. It's a deeper self. And within that deeper self, that is God. God is all that is. God is not an energy outside of you within the spiritual community, within the spiritual realm. And thus, your energy in spirituality is not focused on something outside yourself. You don't pray to God for favor. Some people in the spiritual community sometimes pray to the universe, which is still falling under the same beliefs as religion, because you think you're talking to something outside yourself. But in true spirituality, it's all within. So whatever prayer you have, it's a prayer towards self. And essentially that's what it is. But in religion, we are praying to a God outside ourselves to give us favor. Okay. And also, the problem that brings is that if God is outside us, right, then in this realm where there is suffering, many people feel as if God is not being involved, God is not being engaged, God is not doing what an eternal, superpowered, intelligent being would do by eradicating suffering and evil. But of course, there are arguments as to why those are necessary, as to why God placed that as potential for those kinds of things to happen. But then we look at the most extreme cases, like children being abducted or children dying of like chronic diseases that, you know, like you cannot really say that they deserve that, you know, just really, really bad things that happen. And if a God is omnipotent, all powerful, then many people wonder why God would allow such things to happen. If God is all powerful and if God is all good, then why would God permit evil? See, that's the problem with evil. That's a whole debate around that. But within spirituality, we understand that there's a polarity within the universe. There is both positive energy and negative energy. And the totality of existence are both energies intertwined, playing with each other, conflicting with each other, however you want to interpret the engagement of these energies, but they are hand in hand. So positive and negative work in unison in order to birth something new. So in spirituality, God is more like a mirror. God is not judgment. God is not looking down on you and saying this is right and this is wrong. But in the realm of spirituality, you are your own guiding post. Thus, ultimately, if you have any judgments about yourself, then that's where the judgments will come from. Not from something outside yourself, but you. You essentially are at the center within spirituality. And it understands that God is not biased. You know, it understands that, you know, the universe, life will only give you that which you give out. There are no special favors, and no matter how hard you pray, you will not get that until you place yourself in the position on a vibrational level to be the reality, to be the person that you need to be in order to live in that reality. So within spirituality, the power is brought back to the self. The attention is brought back to the self, in which the self then decides if it wants to live in accordance to the reality it says it prefers. But then within religion, you are asking for favor. You're asking for an intervention, basically, by some external force in your life. But you understand yourself as the cause within spirituality. So, yeah, just going to touch upon these three. And then next time I'll go into part 2 and dive into more differences between spirituality and religion. And hopefully this was really helpful. Comment down below what you guys thought of the video. Like, share, subscribe. And to end it off, as I always end it off, for those who seek no more. For in the present we find it all. Thank you very much, guys.